Hello.
We're back.
We are, well, are we?
Most of us.
We are, we are back, Murder.
Yeah.
We are back. But I'm wondering, are you back?
Most of me.
Most of you? Well, listen, you sound a little different. What, hey, listen, we on the couch. This is a no judgment zone right here. What's going on with your voice?
I lost it. I left it.
You lost your voice?
Yeah, I left it. In Atlanta.
Oh, I thought you meant in the relationship, in your life. I thought you were saying that. So you lost your voice in
I
Atlanta?
was always in Atlanta.
Are you going to be able to have a conversation if, as Larry Reid say, a conversation if you lost your voice?
I'm going to try.
Okay, well, we're going to see what to do. Y'all listen real attentively.
Right.
You got to listen real attentively if you're dealing with somebody who lost their voice, okay? So it's been a few days since we had our good conversation.
It has been.
We've been on this journey together, and we have been updating all of our best friends about, girl, like how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, you know what, we just going to take it bit by bit, and we're going to eat this elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's the best way to do it.
And we said we're going to tell the whole story. We're going to start from the beginning, girl.
Yeah.
So, the last time we talked about how you had came to my apartment. Mm-hmm. We were spending time together.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, we were just friends.
Yeah.
But you were wanting to cross into
more.
Mm-hmm. More. Something happened.
Something did happen.
Something suddenly came up.
It did.
And something transpired between the two of us, thus bringing us to episode 3.
Yes.
The point of no return.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to a point of no return.
Yep. And you dropped me back off that night where I belong.
You remember the details?
I do.
Walk me through, because I don't remember the details.
Oh, well, let me share them.
Walk me through the car ride.
So, best friends, after Candy and I had crossed a boundary, or a line, I'll say not even a boundary, it was a line.
Uh-huh.
I had to go back, because if you guys recall, I had a girlfriend, and we were visiting her aunt. And so, Candy had to take me back to my girlfriend's aunt's house, where my girlfriend was waiting for me. And so we get in the car, and Candy's like, I don't really want to take you back. And I was like, I don't really want to go back, but I gotta go back. And so she drives me to my girlfriend's aunt's house, and she's like, well, I guess I'll talk to you tomorrow. I said, yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow. She drops me off. I let my girlfriend know that I'm there. She lets me in. And then I just remember that night laying next to my girlfriend thinking about Candy. Like, I don't really want to be here right now, but I'm here, right?
Yeah.
And that was how that night ended.
Wow. Didn't we text?
We did a little bit, and especially the next day. Like, it was like first thing that morning. Like, good morning. And I was like, I gotta go back. We heading back to Peoria. And you were like, really? I was like, yeah. You was like, I want to see you. I want to see you too. But we couldn't.
Yeah. So I think, as I recall, because we talking 20 plus years, about 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. As I recall, my young mind was processing some things, and I think I was learning a difficult lesson that at 42 is common sense, but at say like 21-ish, 22 is not necessarily common sense. And I think it was in that moment that I realized that our actions have real consequences.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Let me say it again. Our actions have real consequences. Well, for a lot of us as adults, that's common sense. But at the age of 20-something, in my mind, I thought we could cross this line. And tomorrow we go back to being friends as if nothing happened.
Right.
and then we continue to be friends, and then that's it. No harm, no foul. Right? You know what it was, I know what it was, and the monkey's off our back. Right? We'll just leave it at that, because now you know what it's like, I know what it's like, whatever, and then we're done. It was a very immature way of processing the situation. Yeah. You see what I mean? And so I think the lesson that I learned in that season was our actions have real life consequences. And so with that being said, I remember reaching out to Jaleesa again. Shout out to Jaleesa. Today is Jaleesa's birthday. So for those of you guys who have not read the books, got the books, go to the website, sincerityjohnson.com. Our books are there. Get the book bundle. Get caught up. You'll know. So my friend Jaleesa, today is her birthday. Happy birthday, Jay. But I remember reaching out to her again, like, girl, there's more to the story. And I'm catching her up on the more. And she was just like, I really like her for you. And she gave me reason. And I'm like, but girl, listen, like, did you not put the pieces together? I'm single as a dollar bill at this point. Because remember, me and my girl had broke up. Yeah. So I'm as single as a dollar bill at this point. I'm working 2 jobs. I've gotten on my feet. I got my little apartment. I am just kind of getting started right after graduation. And I'm single. It's up from here for me. And in the midst of me working 2 jobs, although I'm single, I'm on dating apps. Yeah. Okay? I'm on dating apps. So Chaun is in a relationship with the ventriloquist. I am on dating apps. And I meet this beautiful young tender from Kentucky. Lord have mercy. Named Brittany. Okay? So Brittany and I are going back and forth on the dating apps, but I didn't feel compelled to tell her what happened between me and Chaun because Brittany and I weren't in a relationship. We were just talking.
And we were friends.
And you and I were friends. So now, Brittany and I, let's be honest, we've been talking on this dating app for months at this point. The conversations is getting good. We're talking every day and all this other kind of stuff. But I had just recently graduated from college. She was still in college. She was finishing her last year. Spring break is approaching. Shout out to, the girls down there in Kentucky at the University, UK, the University of Kentucky. She came to visit, or she's coming to visit, right? At this time, she's coming to visit. We have been scheduling this whole, come spend, 4 or 5 days of spring break with me type of thing. We have been planning this. She coming to visit.
I didn't know nothing about it.
Well, you weren't supposed to. You had a whole little situation.
I guess it was none of my business.
So I'm steady telling Jaleesa, like, girl, I am in a conundrum. Girl, I am in a pickle, girl. I got one getting ready to get on the Greyhound, and I got one that just got in the car to go, whatever. And so I'm like, girl, what does one do? So I'm going back and forth, and at first Jaleesa was like, well, tell the girl don't come. And I was like, why, Sway? Chaun is in a whole relationship.
That makes no sense.
Exactly. I was like, girl, Chaun is in a whole relationship. And so we going back and forth. So, I just remember just feeling away.
Did you regret that we crossed the line?
I didn't regret it, but I did sit with feelings of jealousy towards the ventriloquist. I found myself feeling feelings that I didn't want to feel.
Okay.
And I had not had a lot of experiences at that point, because I've always been a serial not dater, but I've always been in relationships.
Yeah, a serial monogamous.
I've been a serial monogamous my whole life. So with that being said, girl, I've always been in a relationship since I was 15. So at that point, I was like, girl, listen, you know, I'm out here doing single people stuff, and this fast lane ain't for me.
You don't know how to take it.
Girl, I was like, girl, I'm feeling feelings. Like I wasn't like in love, because it wasn't that, but I didn't like the fact that I felt the way. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. After we went there, I felt the way, and I didn't like that. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was losing control of the situation. I didn't like that. But I realized I felt the way. And I had to sit with that. And that's what Jaleesa and I were talking about. Mm-hmm. So, Jaleesa, if I could describe Jaleesa. If y'all ever seen the Cosby Show, Jaleesa is Charmaine from the Cosby Show. Baby, when I say she talk, it take my mama to tell the story. My mama came to the apartment one weekend. She said, "Girl, you two such and such talk from sun up to sundown." She said, "Girl, I literally watched. I went to bed and got up, and the sun was coming up, and y'all still sitting on the couch talking." Mm-hmm. So Jaleesa helped me unpack it all, but I still felt the way.
And it was crazy because I was left with the what now mentality. Like, okay, this is somebody I had been crushing on for years, that had been like my best friend that I told everything to. Mm-hmm. Never thought, like, was hoping, but never thought that the opportunity would ever present itself. And then the opportunity presented itself. And so now I'm stuck with this what now? Like, what does this mean? Like, do we do anything else? Do we address it anymore, or do we just act like it didn't happen? Do I just keep moving forward in my relationship? I had all these things going through my head. So Candy was dealing with her stuff, and mind you, this was something that we didn't share with each other. We were best friends. We talked about everything, but when it came to this, we didn't share this with each other.
No. And that's a level of vulnerability, if I could be honest with you, that I probably would not have given you at that point. Mm-hmm. Because I felt like you held all the cards. I was used to holding all the cards. Mm-hmm. I was used to being the one that had one over here and one over there and impossible. And you see what I'm saying?
Lord,
I was used to, all we can do is tell the truth. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I was used to that being my story. And I felt like you held all the cards, and I just didn't feel like being that vulnerable with you. I didn't feel like that would work to my benefit.
I can understand that.
I didn't feel like that would work to my benefit, because I felt like, you know, in that season, and not to say that you were wrong or that you would be wrong, but it would have been, I don't know, I felt like you would have approached it with a level of selfishness. It would have been like what you wanted first, because you wanted me, but then you clearly wanted her too, because y'all wouldn't have been in a relationship and living together if you didn't. Yeah. So it would have been that natural, not to say that you're selfish, because you're not, but I think the human part of all of us would have instantly went to, what can I do and say to keep them both on the hook? You see what I'm saying? We've all played that game. What can I do? That's why I spotted out a mile away when other people do it to me. Girl, what can I do and say in this moment to get what I know, which is both? You see what I'm saying?
But it's funny how things work themselves out. That's the crazy part. It was just a really, really interesting time, because like you said, you was dealing with feelings and emotions that you hadn't felt before. I was dealing with the same thing, and also dealing with, now mind you, my relationship was okay. It wasn't like me and my girlfriend were on the outs, or we were, you know, at odds or anything like that. Like, we were good. We were coasting. But it really wasn't progressing one way or the other. It was just kind of coasting. And so for me, it was like I wasn't 100% in anymore.
Do you think you guys were growing apart, or you were looking for more? Because she was younger than you.
She was younger.
And she hadn't, no shade for her in me saying this, she hadn't accomplished what you had accomplished at that point.
Yeah. I do think that I was starting to maybe want more, but I was also in a state of contentment where I was just like, okay, I'm good. I got my place. I'm working. I got my job. I got this, that, and the third. So it was just like, it was like kind of like whatever. So I think we were just kind of in a holding pattern.
Because I remember in that season, there was a slight shift happening with me. It was, I'm in my 20s and I'm living my best life, so to speak, right? I got my little apartment. I got my brand new little car. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm single. I'm on these day naps. I got this, fine chick in Kentucky. And then I got, Chaun here that I'm friends with that, we trying to figure out what's going on. I think I was getting to the point where I'm like, okay, you can't keep living for today. You want a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Was I ready for marriage and all that? Absolutely not. Right. I wasn't there. Right. But there's a spectrum. Mm-hmm. And I think I was getting to the point where I was just like, okay, I want a little bit more. I just don't know what that more looks like. Mm-hmm. But I'll probably know when I find it. Maybe. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
So yeah. What was your biggest lesson in that season?
My biggest lesson was, I think for me, was to learn how to have restraint and to make big girl choices. By that I mean, I acted on my feelings, I acted on my emotions, I acted on my desires, without thinking about the fact that I'm in a relationship, I have a girlfriend, and everything was just wrong as 2 left shoes. I was wrong, right? Mm-hmm. But I just was acting on my desires and my emotions. And I think my biggest lesson then, and I've learned this a few times since that situation, is that you have to learn how to weigh the situation and not give in to temptation or your desires, or just live haphazardly, and really take into consideration everything that you have going on. Because like you said, our choices and our decisions have consequences. Yeah. Now, I will say, and this is a bad thing for a person who makes wrong choices per se, is when you don't get negative consequences. Where is the negative reinforcement to teach you not to do it again?
It's got to be. So the negative reinforcement has to come from another source. And I think, not to make this video that, but I think that's what's wrong with society. Mm-hmm. People don't have no accountability to nothing higher than themselves. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? If you have a relationship with God, then that's your checks and balances. True. If you have grown up with certain morals and you see certain things as right and certain things as wrong, then that's your checks and balances in that regard. Mm-hmm. But I think my biggest takeaway in this season is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Mm-hmm. I was the person dropping you off to your girlfriend. I didn't know that one day I was going to be the wife. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I was going to be the wife, and I was going to be the one sitting up at home waiting on you to come home. You see what I mean? Like, so if it's good for the goose, it's got to be good for the gander. And so you have to be careful. Now, I sowed that seed at the age of 20-something, mm-hmm. and one would think that know more about the story later on that I reap what I sowed years later. Mm-hmm. Some may think that. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. There may be some truth in that to some degree. Mm-hmm. But my biggest takeaway was very similar to yours with the having restraint. Everything that's presented to you and everything that's tempting to you is not for you. Mm. That's deep. Everything that's presented to you and everything how did I say it? Everything that's presented to you.
And everything that is a temptation to you.
Yeah, it's not for you.
That's a word right there.
Yeah. It took me until late 30s, if I'm honest, to really truly master self and get restraint and control over myself.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know how the story play out. Some people know how the story play out later.
Yeah.
Girl, I was wrestling and grappling with that thing for years. And it was the lack of self-control.
Mm-hmm.
And your inability to be able to control yourself opens Pandora's box. And when Pandora's box is open, you cannot close it.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot close it. You cannot open Pandora's box because it's more than just a physical exchange between two people. You're dealing with soul ties. You're dealing with emotions. You're dealing with matters of the heart. There's so many different things that one starts to deal with. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting and I think somewhat therapeutic that we're telling this story because as we're telling it in sequential order, it's forcing us to look back at the age of 40-something, at the decisions that we made at the age of 20-something, and say, I chose this 20 years ago, and it got me here immediately, but it also got me here 20 years later.
Yeah.
Because the direction that we go in one door, left or right, lead to the next door.
Mm-hmm.
And so forth is the circle of life. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things. So I'm learning that a lot of the things that I went through was my inability to have self-control.
Mm.
Yep. And I'm learning that my power as a woman and as I evolve is my ability to look at something that's tempting to me mm-hmm. that I would have said yes 2 years ago and say nope. Mm-hmm. I can't and I won't. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Miss Brittany, so you had her on the way to the place, huh?
So here we sit. Here we sit. Chaun and I are spending more time together. The days on the calendar are steadily ticking away. My phone calls with Brittany are unwavering. We still on the phone for hours, texting for hours, excited about seeing each other, making plans. But in the background, unbeknownst to her, Chaun and I are spending more and more time together. And deep down inside, I'm really grappling with, should I still let her come? Or should I have a tough conversation and break off the trip? So as we get closer, I got a decision to make. Mm-hmm. And I have to make that decision not only for Brittany, but for Candy and for Chaun. And I don't know what to do. Because in my mind, I'm also thinking, girl, do you? Chaun is in a relationship.
Yeah. And you don't owe me anything.
I don't owe her anything. But I don't want to be misleading to a woman, a young woman who's putting so much into what we're trying to explore. Mm-hmm. So what do I do? What do I do? What will I do? What will I do? We're going to leave you there. Let's just say Brittany's on her way.